Millions of years ago, long before cities, before nations, and before names, there were only survivors. They walked barefoot across an untamed world, a world filled with danger, beauty, and endless uncertainty. They followed rivers that curved like silver snakes through the wilderness, searching for water, for shelter, for food. Their days began with the first light of dawn and ended with the fall of night. There were no homes, no tools, no words, only the will to live one more day. Life in those early ages was simple, but it was never easy. Every sunrise brought hope, but also hunger. Every shadow carried a threat, and every sound in the dark could mean death. They lived by their instincts. They listened to the earth. They watched the skies. They learned the rhythm of nature. Yet even in that harsh world, a spark of something greater was growing inside them. A sense of curiosity, a quiet awareness that they were different from the beasts that surrounded them. At first, they wandered alone, scattered across the plains, moving wherever food led them. But isolation brought weakness, and weakness meant death. So they began to gather. A few became a family. A few families became a tribe. And for the first time, they discovered the power of unity. They learned that together, they could hunt larger animals, protect their young, and share what they found. The strong hunted, the quick gathered, and the wise guided. Around the fire, they learned to share not only food, but warmth. Not only warmth, but thought. They began to recognize one another's voices, to make sounds that carried meaning. Those first sounds were not yet words, but they were the first heartbeat of language. As they sat beside the fire, looking into the flames, they found comfort in something deeper, imagination. They began to dream. They remembered what they saw, they retold it, they passed it on. And thus, the first stories were born, stories of the hunt, of the rain, of the stars. It was through those stories that they began to understand time itself. But nature does not stay kind for long. The rain stopped, the rivers dried, and the forests turned to dust. The world that once gave them life now became their greatest challenge. The hunt grew harder, and the nights grew longer. The earth cracked beneath their feet, and hunger returned, fierce and unrelenting. They wandered again, across empty lands where no bird sang and no beast roamed. Children cried, the weak stumbled, and the tribe began to lose hope. Yet even then, they did not turn against one another. They carried the old and comforted the young. When one fell, another helped him rise. It was in this suffering that humanity truly began, not in strength, but in compassion. After days of walking beneath a merciless sun, they found it, a hidden spring deep between rocks. The water was muddy, but to them, it was life itself. They drank, they wept, and they laughed again. They had faced nature's cruelty and survived. From that struggle, they learned the most powerful lesson of all. Hope is stronger than hunger, and unity is stronger than fear. When the rains returned, they did not simply celebrate. They remembered. They remembered the hunger, the thirst, and the pain, and they began to think ahead. They learned to store food, to plan for dry seasons, to protect what they had earned. And in doing so, they changed the course of their own destiny. They shaped stones into sharp edges. They carved wood into spears. They used bones as tools. With every new creation, they became a little less helpless and a little more human. They painted their hunts on cave walls, not for decoration, but for memory. They began to teach their children not just how to survive, but how to understand the world around them. And then, one night, everything changed again. A single spark leapt from stone to grass, and the first fire was born. At first, they feared it. It was bright, wild, and alive. But soon they learned to tame it, to feed it, to keep it burning. Fire became their guardian. It gave them light in the darkness, warmth in the cold, and courage against the beasts. It cooked their food, hardened their tools, and lit the path of their evolution. In that flame, they saw power, not the power to destroy, but the power to create. Around the fire, they gathered every night. They sang, they danced, they told stories. The fire became the center of their world, a symbol of unity, of memory, of hope. From the light of that fire came the first sparks of imagination, and from imagination came the birth of invention. They learned to dream not just of surviving the next day, but of shaping the future. They built shelters from stone and wood. They crafted weapons. They explored. they began to move beyond fear. And with every generation, they grew stronger, smarter, more curious. They learned that the world was not something to escape from. It was something to understand. From dust they rose. Through struggle they learned. Through unity, they became something new, humanity. The fire they lit 1,000,000 years ago still burns within us. It burns in every light we create, in every tool we build, and in every dream we chase. We are their legacy, the children of their endurance, the echo of their courage. Their story is not just history, it is us. From a single spark in the darkness, the story of mankind began. And that spark still burns today.